To be here. I sometimes have problems with microphones not being high enough, but it seems to be working. My name is KLove. I love Burlington. I grew up in Burlington, went to Aldershot High School, graduated in the year before they put in the pool. I spent 16 years of my life in the Canadian Army. And that experience convinced me that I should definitely become a professional accountant. Boring job. All the Army guys, that's their dream. So here I am, and what I'm going to talk about tonight is my own life. I am not a transportation or health professional. I'm a professional accountant, so but I do use the work of health professionals, like our wonderful medical officer of health. We'll see this in the presentation, but there's been some absolutely fantastic and marvelous, and I cannot speak highly enough of the work of medical officers of health, of documenting and recording and getting scientific evidence as to this is the effect of human health upon using cars as transportation. I'll also talk about how those health effects have affected my life and my family. So that's sort of who I am and what I'm going to talk about. So let's get into it. This is what we're looking at right now. We have a transportation mode share that is dominated by using private cars for transportation. From the 2006 census, the commute to work mode share in Burlington is 80% motorists, drivers and passengers, 8% public transit, and 5% active transportation. That's walking and cycling. So that was, of course, 6 years ago. Those numbers are roughly the same today. There hasn't been any radical change in them from any evidence that I've been able to find. There has been some small change for the better, but I don't think that if you were to go outside, you would suddenly see that cars have stopped being used for transportation. Okay, now one of the things that I was saying, I love medical officer of health work. Toronto's medical officer of health did a wonderful report in the year 2007. And 2007 is a key year in my life that I'll get on in, that I'll describe shortly. But here's the impacts in Burlington and health. I used the methodology of Health Canada and the medical officer of health to run those numbers for Burlington. Car drivers poison and kill 30 people in Burlington every year. One of those people was my father, and that's my own personal tragedy that I'll talk about soon. Car drivers poison and injure 114 people in Burlington every year so seriously that they require hospitalization. Children and the elderly are the most vulnerable to these lethal poisons. The medical officer of health data is that the only safe dose is 0. Children in Burlington experience 81 acute bronchitis episodes every year due to being poisoned by car drivers, and also 4,577 asthma symptom days, again, due to being poisoned by car drivers. Now, needless to say, all this is not cheap. There are very substantial health care costs. They're being paid for by you and me as taxpayers, which come to approximately $148 million per year. Now I'm going to talk about my own personal life. Some people in this room may have known my father, Dr. Robert Love. He was a wonderful man, and he and I he was not just my father, but my business partner. We did so many things together. In many ways, he was my best friend. An avid non-smoker. He died of lung cancer It's not too hard to figure out why. There is no magic cancer fairy sprinkling that dust down. It's one of the 30 people in Burlington every year. And I want to make sure that those 30 people are not just dull, dry statistics, that there are people and faces and names behind them, that they are real people, not just numbers, people. My mother, Ingrid Love, last December, double mastectomy due to cancer. Myself, my right kidney was removed in 2003 due to being riddled with cancer. It metastasized to my pelvis, 7 centimeters of which was removed. I'm very lucky to be standing in front of you today as opposed to being in a wheelchair. So that is my own family history. Obviously, susceptibility to lethal poisons is in many ways genetically connected. So my children are at very great risk because of this family history. Okay, so that's kind of the bad news. The effect of car drivers upon our population is roughly the same as a major terrorist attack in Burlington every year. 30 people dead, 114 injured. What are we going to do about it? So that's the bad news. Let's start talking about good news. It doesn't have to be this way. An excellent example is our sister city of Apeldoorn in the Netherlands. Now remember how I said that I was in the Army. I served in 2 regiments, the Royal Canadian Regiment and the Royal Regiment of Canada. The Royal Canadian Regiment liberated Apeldoorn in World War II. And in fact, their last battle honor is Apeldoorn. So as a result, when I go back there as part of the Army events, and we go back, I would like to say every year, but I would be lying, we are welcomed by the people with open arms. So that's sort of the historic connection with the city, but I think they have key lessons for the present. They managed to make cycling the fastest, easiest, and most convenient way of getting around for almost all destinations from A to B within the city. And remember, my first slide was about our transportation mode share in Burlington. In Apeldoorn, over 50% of all trips less than 8 kilometers are by bicycle. And Apeldoorn is like Burlington. I mean, there's nothing in the Dutch DNA or some weirdness about their climate or anything that makes them special. They have similar population. Their population is roughly 85% that of Burlington. They have similar climate. Last year they had a couple of 20 centimeter snowfalls, and the Dutch conducted a skating on canals around the Netherlands competition when the canals froze over, you know, like they do in Ottawa every year. Similar geography to Burlington. Burlington is mostly flat. There are exceptions like the escarpment, but the downtown and most of the city is pretty flat. And similar commute to the primary city. If you look at the train schedules, the time to get from Apeldoorn to Amsterdam, roughly the same as taking the GO train times from here to Toronto. So they're part of, you know how we're part of this Golden Horseshoe area. Apeldoorn is part of what they call the Randstad, or the Greater Amsterdam area. So these 2 cities are very, very similar. Another Dutch city is Groningen. They managed to get their bicycle mode shift up to 59%. Again, a car-free downtown. They managed to use a sector strategy, which is very employable in Burlington since we have a similar high-density downtown. And of course, our official plan and the Places to Grow Act are showing that the downtown is planned to be even more dense and higher intensity than it is today. They've anchored their transportation strategy around the downtown and divided the city up into 6 sectors. So if you're riding a bike, you go straight from A to B. But if you want to drive a car, where you can't go, you can't do that. If you're out of the car-free zone, then you have to go straight out around to a ring road, around to whatever sector you want to go to, and back in again. Now, also, they have eliminated all of the cut-through traffic in residential areas by doing that. So the result is it's a very livable city. I mean, I go there and I'm thinking, wow, children are playing in the streets. People are out enjoying themselves. The downtown is vibrant and full of life. This is the type of city that I want myself and my family to live in. And Groningen, their population is 180,000. Burlington is 176,000, almost exactly the same. So what I'm saying is these are examples of cities that are very, very much like Burlington, except they have structured the transportation system so that the car is not king. Their motto is, the city is for people, not cars.